Hi, Seamus. I don't know if you can hear me. You're have to unmute. Hi, good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Vincenzo. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? How's London treating you?
It's great. It's really rainy today and cold.
All right. I can't say the same because I'm in Goa and it's all the opposite. It's very hot and and sticky, humid and sunny. But
Lovely. Cool.
I would like to first and foremost, thank you so much for finding the time. I know our production can be hectic. And I have to say it as a fan at first. I love your job and forever. And from Atonement and the things you've done with Joe Wright till this
Mm.
last, which I think was so daring and so new, so bold, and it's a great pity that season two is not happening. I think must be some political issue. I'm pretty sure in our country, unfortunately, nowadays things are not bright for cinema and arts in general. But yes, I'm a great fan. I'm so happy to have this opportunity. And on behalf of the Italian Society of Cinematography, also I want to thank you for this. The
Thank you so much, Vincenzo. It's such an honor for me to be here and to speak with you.
Thank you. No, just to tell you, this interview, we want to do it about film and specifically your experience on Love, which again I think is something like this we have not seen in many years, and therefore I can't wait to ask you about it. We can't cover a career that spans from all the fantastic work you've done with incredible directors and Winterbottom, Stephen Frears. Right, Atonement, your two Academy Awards nomination, and your collaboration also how it started with Lynne Ramsay. So I hope we'll have another chance for that. I'm already inviting you in Sicily for Terre di Cinema. You know, it's our campus, our summer program where we have a strong focus about film and about 35 mil, giving the opportunity to young filmmakers, young generation to experience, at least to experience. Then you can shoot with any tools, but that experience we believe as Italian cinematographers and also our partners, the German Society of Cinematographers, is partner in that. We believe it's very important to transmit this to the new generation. So just if you agree with me, let's focus on them. All of this will be part of the next number of our AIC bulletin that will have a special focus on film. And we'll start to have a regular space dedicated to film in each number. Okay. So
Perfect.
yes, no, as I said, the movie is a visual threat, and also I start from my personal experience. I watched it on a at home theater, so at home, but it felt so cinematic, a true cinematic experience. And I have the first thing I would ask you is the choice of Ektachrome. If you can tell us about anything that you think is relevant and why such as I think you did like Ektachrome and then you also used the 200, right? And the 500 maybe also.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Uh, the 5213 and 5219 we used as well for some of the night exteriors and scenes in the forest and very low key night work. But or and some of the day for night as well was shot with the negative. But the positive, the Ektachrome, that sort of came out of, the lovely discussions you can have with a director who trained initially as a cinematographer, Lynne Ramsay. So, the rapport that you have doesn't need to be in translation. I can speak as a cinematographer to my director, and that's a lovely thing to do because she understands, the stocks, the lenses, and it's a lovely way of communicating. I had actually, although I'm a great fan of Ektachrome in my stills practice and just in holiday stills, and I'd never used it in 35 in motion picture. So Lynne, however, had on a film that Alvin Kuchler shot for her called Morven Caller. She had shot some Ektachrome in that film. So when I was trying to find a way of expressing cinematographically the the kind of the nostalgic, hopeful side of color that would depict the start of the story when they were embarking on this new journey, new home, new love, all the things that, that we all recognize from the optimism of early love. But I also wanted something that I could tune into a different type of color that would almost be saccharine and ripe to the point of rotten. That
Mm,
an
yes,
ectochrome can.
yes, it has this quality very strongly.
So it's a sort of we wanted a nostalgia. So it was color at a distance in memory, but happy one, and also color as a splatter in the here and now that did not represent the real, that was almost a nightmarish color. And Ektachrome, in that it doesn't depict the real. It is very much of its own photographic personality, we felt was perfectly attuned to depict those sensibilities. So it was a fait accompli as soon as we started talking. I suggested Ektachrome and Lynne was just like, absolutely. I was actually thinking in the same direction. So we came to that decision the first time we sat down to talk about the film. And then, it that's the lovely thing when you're talking with somebody who loves photography, like Lynn, is that then we were saying, "Man, what should we do with the night scenes?" And Lynn was just like, I fucking hate night shooting. You're up all night and it's just like, and there's
Yeah,
so little. Yeah, it's so little of it where we're shooting. We were shooting in Canada and Calgary in the summertime, and we only had about 3.5 hours of darkness in any case. And we didn't have the budget to light a forest. We didn't have the budget to light swathes of night. And we both felt that we wanted to see further than normal night photography allows for in a rural environment. When you want to see distance, you want to see across fields, you want that sense of like the far away, the expanse. So I said, well, let's do, and I kind of stole the idea from Slavomir Idziak of the darkening, but he did it with filtration, optical filters and slithers of ND
and
stuck in
the
front.
in both
Yes,
directions.
exactly.
The
But
grad.
yes, so we couldn't really afford or have time to do that. So we decided to just smoke up the glass, the optical flat.
Yes, I've heard about that. These hand knitted filters, right? With candle smoke you used. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yes. I mean, I think people thought that people who were looking on and watching me preparing these filters thought that I was on crack or something because I was burning glass over, but with smoke underneath it and had my eye over it. And then I was like down painting out the little holes of clarity in the middle of it. And it looked so intricate and almost like it looked like something ritualistic and demonic. And it certainly raised some eyebrows amongst the producers as well. But the lovely thing about that is when you see it on screen, is that it's sort of burnt in, like quite literally burnt in into the image. In fact, I brought along these filters just to show you. I've got them. I've got some of them here.
Oh, now it's your
Um,
series, is the McGarvey series. Very nice.
like that's one
Oh,
of them.
wow. That's I have to take a screenshot. Amazing.
So you can see the sort of the kind of uh,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way
yeah.
it's sort of slightly mottled. Maybe it's better to do it on the less reflective side so you can see. But so, like, I mean, it's scratches on it. I mean, I'm going to destroy this one just to show you what it does. But if I run my finger over that, it just goes away, and I've got
All
soot on
right,
my
all
finger.
right, all right, all right,
So,
all right.
so that's that. And you know, so that was like there was a shot, for instance, of Sissy Spacek walking across a landscape with a gun, and where that little dot is where the sun was. So I let that come through and pretended it was a moon, and then Sissy was walking along the middle here with the gun, and
Fantastic,
that
fantastic.
was shot in the middle of the day.
Fantastic. No, it's so remarkable. Thank you also for sacrificing one of those. This I took a screenshot. Well, just to say, I'm recording this video, and then there would be a transcript of this, and you are aware of this. And we would like to put it also as a video podcast on our channel. No, this ta tangible, how to say, activity, this tactile, it's important, right? It's something that maybe we miss in this touchless world that we live in, and then also in the way we create images. I always say, not very quickly, I was in a jungle in Nagaland shooting Super 16, and we got stuck. And now I spare you the details. But then we decided we had nothing to do. We were sitting there, and then we decided to open the camera because we had really had nothing to do. And we managed sometimes to make it run. So, but if I had to open nowadays an Alexa, but I'm not beautiful camera or Sony, whatever, they're all beautiful cameras. I wouldn't know what to do because I open it and then I close it. What can I do there? So what do you think? Yeah, that this it's important to recover this. This
It really is. I think our cameras, they're like a divining rod. You know, when you're looking for water, the simplicity of two sticks conjoined that go whoop when you find water. It's that the camera is like a magical device. It's like a wand, a magic wand in a way. And when it's behind an electronic box, you're kind of at odds. You're at a distance from the actual machinery that is like a channel, a funnel through which the rail passes and is altered by. There is something really special about the physical that I think has been lost in digital. And it is a mystery to some, but at least we know, and I love the fact that you can hear the register, you can hear the shutter turning. You know that every frame is being captured, it's going in there. And I even like it when the
it rolls
mag jam
out.
and you go and you go,
It rolls out also. Yes.
or when it rolls out, or when there's a hair in the gate, or you see the structural properties of what you're dealing with. And the fact that there's a certain alchemy in taking that invisible, latent image and then adding it to a chemical soup and making something from that sort of pretends to be real, but is quite the opposite. It's at such a distance from the real, but the illusion of the real persists. And I love the poetry of that. That it kind of this camera and the celluloid itself is a kind of a gauze. It's like looking at something through like a wavering curtain, or you know, it's a filtration of the real, both in and the time that it takes to make decisions, to expose, to put it through a laboratory. You haven't got the image there right away to replay. You have to wait for it. And in waiting for it, there's a certain prayer that goes on. There's something sacred about that. And then when it comes back, the image is slightly different to what you expected. I mean, it's close, but there's been so many interventions in
Always
between.
surprises you in a way, and but but in fact, also the simplicity also of it is important. You know, I see it with the young filmmakers that come Terre di Cinema. We have like every year 12 directors, uh, 24 camera that we divide in between. We keep divided DOPs and camera operators because it's too hectic to do both at the same time. And I think it's important also to defend the role of the camera operator and to promote the role of that. And I see that there is a curve. Like first there is anxiety, then there is a bit of fear, Then there is relief, realizing how simple and beautiful it is. And then there is also the wait, because they wait for 1 week. We don't get the rushes immediately, but they really can handle the wait. I'm surprised by that. Nobody really
Yeah.
loses it. Just and then the fall in love, of course. But speaking of also, I would like to give some information to those who have not, who have never shot on Ektachrome and might consider this option. So, what was happening? How can you tell what can you tell us about the workflow actually, as compared to shooting on 35 or shooting, so what can you tell us about how do you handle and manage the workflow on Dimalov?
Well, it was tricky because we were shooting in Calgary and options to process the stock were kind of limited there. I mean, there were plenty of labs to process negative. So in the end, and I wanted to have a rapport with the lab itself, and I couldn't really do that. Or certainly there was one lab that would process our Ektachrome 100, but the studio or it wasn't really studio, but the bond wouldn't because it had maybe some mishaps in the past. They wouldn't allow us to use that, so we had to send the rushes back from Calgary in Canada back to London to CineLab in London, where Darren Ray was my grader. But that was a delay before I got the Russia's clearance was 4 days with the best will in the world. So, and sometimes five. So we had to continue shooting. We had to let the mystery be and have total faith that what we shot was going to come out. And thank goodness it did for all the film. We had a relatively short shoot, but it nothing messed up, and but we that was the workflow that meant that we couldn't wait and say, okay, we can strike that set and move on. We just had to strike the set and move on, or go to the next location. And if anything had have messed up, Lynne would have rewritten something and made it work somehow. But we just didn't have the luxury of a normal, safe workflow. So there was an element of risk in going for Ektachrome. But by the same token, that risk sort of enabled creative possibilities. For one, it led to this extreme focus, like that what we were doing was very precious, and that we couldn't, the actors had to get it. It was an expensive process. So there was no sense of, oh, we'll just run this and run it for a mag's length and then just reload and shoot another one and shoot another one. The imperative of getting it was right, and we never rehearsed anything. We just sort of went with it, trusting us to capture something. And that led to this incredible focus that I've never really encountered, or I've remembered when we used to shoot everything on film. But I've been very lucky that the last, 4 or 5 projects I've done have been on film. So I'm sort of getting used to it again in a wonderful way, because what I love is that discipline, you know, of just getting it right first time and moving on, because you've got nobody saying looks a bit dark, because the monitors are all don't represent what you're getting at all, either in color or in
True,
exposure.
true.
So for the producers, it was an interesting experience when they finally saw firstly the smoke filter when it came back, and the Ektachrome when it came back. They were actually very pleasantly surprised, and they were like, I didn't know it was going to be like that. I said, well, that's when you choose a stock and you make a statement of intent to film in a particular way, and not say, I'm just going to leave this in up to the DI to make the color, when there's 1,000 voices telling you how it should look.
Too many, sometimes we can say too many options is like having no options at the end of the day, right? Sometimes I see this advertising, this dumb advertising of these AI apps, and I'm not a nostalgist. I'm not talking. I like very much to live my times, but these ads, I say, this in particular, this claim creativity without limits, but that is so wrong. there can't be creativity if there are no limits.
I
Limits
agree.
are part of the creative process. So it's completely misleading, right?
Yeah.
Communication. And
I love that Five Obstructions, the Lars von Trier film, The
yeah,
Five Obstructions that his film shooter had set him. But you're right, Vincenzo.
so it's interesting also, and I'm happy that you raised this point. So, but practically then, how many days was the principal photography? For how many days have you guys shot?
I think we shot for 29 days. It was a very tight shoot. It wasn't like a desultory budget. I think it was maybe 20 million or something dollars. So it probably like a very good budget for what we had, but we had to shoot fast because of cast availability and just this that was the amount of time allocated. So I like working like that. I like working with a finite time. We did 5 day weeks, but because we were shooting all by day, there was no night photography. So it meant that we could shoot a little bit later. We would work a 12-hour day rather than you know, 10 hours. That was fine because everyone knew that if we started at 8, we'd be finished by 8, and that was
And
that.
therefore, the
And
long summer was an advantage in that sense. I mean,
yes,
the long daylight of summer of North, say, Canadian summer. And you were also operating. So basically, you must have received the rushes probably once a week, more or less, once of a shooting week, basically. Yes.
that's it. And I would check the rushes, and the producers would obviously too. Uh, Lynn preferred not to. She just preferred to trust. So she didn't see. She saw a few examples of the Ektachrome just 'cause out of curiosity, but she tended to w wait until the end of the film. She had enough on her plate with the shooting, to just focus on that. So it was only at the end when she was editing, and she went to Berlin to edit with Tony Frischheimer, the editor. And it was only then that she rang back and said, "Oh my God, I think it's going to be really interesting looking." So that was,
And of course, also the DI becomes a different, it becomes more a completion of what you created on set, of course. Needless, I know it might sound a bit obvious as a question,
well,
but
that's right. Well, the DI we did in a week because, everything was kind of in camera, literally. I mean, when Adam Inglis, who is a brilliant timer, a colorist, and can do anything. And I did atonement with him, which was my first DI actually. It was shot on film, but he just said, "Look, here's what the Ektachrome looks like as it comes up with no adornment." And we both looked at it, and I said, "Well, there are shots in maybe in skin tones. I'd like to pull out a little bit of magenta, but apart from that, the spirit of the original is sort of perfect, really. So let's not try to either over egg the pudding or pull it back. Like let's just balance everything with this in mind." And so we had I basically set a frame of every scene, and then I went away, and then Adam would work on balancing everything, and I would come back the next day, and we'd watch it in the run, and it was all pretty good. And then we tackled the night shots separately, and again, it was all pretty much in camera. At one point, I think Lynn felt that it needed, when they were looking with the telescope, it needed the addition of digital stars in the black because it was just too solid. So we did that digitally, and I thought that worked very well indeed.
it does.
Yeah, but yeah, it was just a case of looking at the degree. I shot obviously the exteriors on tungsten stock by day without an 85 filter, so they started cool, they started blue, but I wanted it to feel more like cyanotypes, like the Edward
Okay.
Stike pictorialist photography of the turn of the century with cyan and that sort of oxidized copper feel. So we did that, and Adam was brilliant. He got us into that arena.
But you
And
start
actually,
from that basis, basically,
yes.
unfiltered tungsten light. But listen, please tell us something more for also for our young, I would say, followers and students, filmmakers, regarding this day for night, because it's fantastic. It's, let me say again, especially because you managed to do something that has not been seen before. That the originality of it, and it's so strong and it's so powerful, and it's this dreamy feeling. It's serving the story so well. Tell us, was it like, did you follow the conventional, apart from the choice of the film stock, did you find the conventional rules of day for night, or you did something different, part the filtration? What can you tell us about this, please?
Well, I have shot day for night in the past, and I've used a slightly different technique. It was for photochemical, processing. So I was shooting it on both on the film Enigma, Michael Apted's film, wartime film. I shot some day for night at sea for that, and I shot with a Harrison day for night monochromatic day for night filter, which is a sort of a bluish filter, and I underexposed the stock for that. Now, in the tests we did for Dime I Love, when I did some tests where I underexposed by a stop and a half and sometimes further, and the timer at CineLab, who was doing our dailies timing, said, "Look, it's actually better for me in our more sophisticated digital age. Once I scan the film, if you expose it normally, I can pull back all the highlights, pull back all the skies and open up the shadows and make a much softer, flatter image initially because the filtration is doing everything else for me, but leave the exposure where it is, and then we can lift, highlight, and create windows. So in the day for night, I did do some windowing on faces, uh, but I generally speaking, I pulled back all the highlight right back. But we did that because we were able to, because we had exposure there. So the shadow was there in detail.
Was exposed.
If I'd underexposed the shadow, everything would have gone into too much
Crash.
contrast.
Yeah.
Crush,
Yeah.
exactly. So I opened it up, I exposed it normally, and we were very helped by the sophistication of the DI in in making two passes, one for highlight, one for shadow, and super and combining them. So that way there's a sort of a velvety darkness throughout
True,
with
it's true.
very,
Velvet is
yeah.
the right word, and you can touch it. Again, everything is very tangible in this, very materic in this film. Having said this, could you tell us something about operating? Actually, you were operating yourself. Mostly was handheld. Did you have a camera operator?
Well, I did. I actually did have an operator, and I love operating, and I did operate shots on Dime I Love, but most of the operating was done by this amazing operator from Canada called Chris Chow, and he was did all the Steadicam work, and which was quite a lot of. It's hard. We didn't want it to feel like Steadicam, but we were sort of lighting our feet, and a lot of the tracking shots were steady, and certainly low angle shots in the grass of Jennifer crawling around. They were all steady. So, and Chris operated those brilliantly because he was also a young operator, very light on his feet, and also able to, because there was a lot of improvisational choreography that was going on, and he was really tuned with the actors and was sort of his instincts and reactions were incredibly sort of alive. So yes, that was Chris Chow. But I just love. I mean, I'm operating on. My wife Lauren is about to start a film that I'm operating on here in London in a couple of weeks' time, and I'm glad to be back in the saddle again, because it's where I'm at my happiest when I can. Because especially if you are reacting to improvisational performance, you can move with it and it becomes like a dance.
Yes, absolutely. No, but in fact, the Steadicam doesn't feel that invasive. It's very organic to the decoupage. And can we say something about the lenses, please?
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, I tested some lenses. And normally, I normally don't like people kind of sit around in circles and kind of like salivate over vintage glass. And with cinematographers when they go out for dinner or whatever, and it makes me yawn, frankly. But I knew that I needed to do something special with the glass in this one because I didn't want that veracity, not only with the Ektachrome and I knew I needed something to merge the negative and the Ektachrome together with something else that I was the portal onto the film plane had to have something extraordinary with a personality of its own. So I tested some lenses, K35s at one point. I've tested, but I ended up with the uh, P Vintage lenses from Panavision, the Calgary and Panavision supplied me with, and they were just beautiful lenses because they have a sharpness, but they also have this sort of otherworldly opalescence in highlight. And when you the overexposure that happens like inherently in Ektachrome that you can't control sometimes, instead of it becoming brittle in either a backlight or a key light, it sort of becomes like pearlescent and
Yeah, because I
opalescent.
like the pearlescent filters in a way.
Yes. Yes, very much like that, but it's sort of as part of the glass. So I used those predominantly. It was a small set of five lenses.
What's the name
And
again of the set?
P for Panavision Vintage. P
Even.
Vintage. And then I also had two lenses that are my favorite lenses that I own that are a 58 mil Petzval and an 85 mil Petzval. So they were used for most of the portraits, because
Close-ups. Close-up
yeah.
lens.
So
That you
the
you use it regularly, these lenses.
regularly we used it on Steadicam following Jennifer. Anytime she was in a herself, we would use it on quite wide open. I think I shot at 2.4 or 2.5 for those, and the beautiful bouquet of swirling out of focusness around. Even in a static shot, it looks like there's a lot going on in her head.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. It's so true. Absolutely. I think it's a beautiful depiction of the complex world of this woman and her transition, and it's so well depicted by the camera, serving the story from the beginning to the end. It's really a great film. Did the film have theatrical distribution? Was meant uh, for theatrical? What was the deal with movie? If because I haven't.
It got a short theatrical distribution. Well, certainly I know here in the UK, um, and it got again a short window of no longer than 3 weeks in the States as well. But Mubi loved the film and they bought it for quite a big price in Cannes.
Yes.
And but it's doing really well. It's on the platform now, and they're saying that it's doing really well. But it was intended for theatrical distribution.
Yes, that's what I wanted to ask you because if movie was involved in the at the early stage of production, or they just came in
No.
as buyers, basically.
They did. They did. They came in. It was privately funded, or not privately funded, but with private finance.
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence also is she's part of one of the.
Yes,
They are both executive producers of the project, I believe.
yes, and Martin Scorsese as well.
Yes. I haven't asked you anything yet, and it's a ritual also that I have to ask you about lighting. What was your approach? Especially, how did you light the house? The house is a character. It has a very strong presence in the story. Of course, it's almost a character in his own. what was
Yes.
your what was your approach, and also if you also a bit more technical, if we can say something about the systems that you have adopted, and yeah, also because nowadays also we are used. I just shot a movie with this 2500 bays of Sony Venice, which I find it interesting. And some now going back to having to get the exposure, what were you using basically? Basically, how did you like this movie?
Well, it was lit kind of crudely, I would say, because the interior of the house being Ektachrome, the exteriors were fine because we had available light,
Of
and,
course.
and 100 ASA is fine. But when you're in an interior, I needed to get the exposure, like I needed to set the
Yeah.
lens at 2.8 minimum, 2.8 minimum. So to do that in on a cloudy day, you need to pump a lot of light through a window. So I didn't have many lights in the set, in the room at all, but I did have one hard light that might bounce off the floor, an 18K, for instance, HMI. Sometimes I would warm that up because it would get quite cool in there, and I would use bounce. I would the walls, if they were dark, I would add some bounce, and for other scenes, I would hang up negative fill to make it more contrast in the shadow areas. But generally speaking, I mean, the producers were laughing at me because they were like, this is a low budget film, and there are 10, 18Ks around this tiny little house pumping through the window. So
Well,
it
yeah, well, that was necessary. But so you
but
didn't use much tungsten, like I don't know, brutes, or mostly it's HMIs.
It was HMIs, and for the night stuff in the house, I shot on negative, but I lit that with tiny little sources because we were working in a real place that you couldn't float a wall to get back. So we were in the room with them. We were in the house with them. And I wanted them to have movement and trajectory, and there was a lot of movement in the house. But I would often pan past the window, and you would, excuse me, the light would be in shot, but it just blows out with the Ektachrome, so you don't see the source. You just get a momentary flare. But the actors loved it because they said, well, where's good? Where can we go? And I said, you can go wherever you want in this room. We're lit, we're exposed. So it was a matter of getting the exposure right rather than chiaroscuro.
Your approach is, of course, lighting for the environment and for the
Yes.
actor, not lighting just for
And
the images.
certainly for the night stuff, I was able to be a little bit more delicate with shape, and I did do stuff that had more character in terms of lighting and light and shade. But the daytime stuff had to have this kind of like fever dream of looking of kind of
Yeah, yeah,
everything.
it's almost acid also. Mhm.
Yes, yes, exactly.
But the T-stop that you were using at day and the T-stop that you were using at night, if you want to tell us this.
Well,
There
by
was a,
day
yeah.
it was generally I shot the entire movie between a 2.8 and a 4. For practical reasons in the interiors, I had to shoot pretty much wide open because I was using every photon to get it up to that exposure. And the exteriors, I would ND down because I liked the fall off of the shallower focus at 4 to 2.8 to 4. And then for the nighttime stuff, again, I was pretty much wide open, but I didn't want that filter that I showed you earlier to register. I wanted that to blend in. And if I'd shot anywhere beyond a 4 or 5, 6, you would start to feel the filter. Whereas shooting wider open, it sort of merged into the picture in a much more pleasing way. So that's why I was shot the whole movie that way between 2.8 and 4.
And did you use any LED, any LED sources at all, or you just...
Any diffusion?
No, no, LED, LED.
LED. I did, yes, I did for the night work because of the proximity of the walls to the actors, and I was usually squeezed at a corner somewhere. I used a lot of Astera tubes, light mats, just smaller LED sources, mostly light mats and Asteras. Occasionally, when I could do for an S30 with a softbox on the front, it was that sort of thing, really.
In
But
a way, this no, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
everything at a quite low level.
Yeah, in a way, like these set are like the new kinos, no? Like the kino flows were used in the past. This is very illuminating indeed. Seamus, I think we had a very nice, how do I say, journey into the cinematography of a beautiful film, which I invite everybody to watch on movie. And I wanted to ask you something more in general to close before closing this chat regarding, for instance, IMAX. There is a lot of talking about IMAX. Are you planning to shoot anything on it? What is your idea about the format? Uh, because now there is a big hype, and we're all happy. But what are your thoughts? What are your
I have to be very careful with NDAs and that sort of thing, as we all do.
okay? So sorry.
No, but yes, what I can say about I've just done a film which will get an IMAX release. And in the run up to it, there was a lot of talk about, well, we're shooting this with IMAX cameras, and I tested with IMAX cameras, and not only was it tricky to shoot with a coffee grinder as a camera with children. It was when I saw the rushes with the director in the IMAX cinema in Waterloo, where I have seen wonderful IMAX films, like One Battle After Another, which was largely shot in a VistaVision camera, but presented in IMAX, and it was one of the most extraordinary cinematic experiences I've ever had. However, for me, I found it really cumbersome. I wasn't comfortable with the medium, and not only that, but I didn't like the look of the clarity, the sharpness. It felt like I was watching a huge video. It didn't feel it didn't have the gauze of strained perception that I love when I look at cinema. That like I'm waking up in the middle of a dream in the middle of the night, and I'm seeing things. And that's what I feel when I'm in a darkened cinema, and I feel the structural presence of grain, of weave, of when you know that you're looking something that's been sort of had people's hands all over it. You feel the artist's hands. Whereas when something is divested of happenstance, accident, and beautiful fuck up, then you lose the hand of the artist, the smear, the slash, the pointillism of grain. I mean, all those things disappear with the bigger the format or the faster the frame rate. And for me, cinema is about persistence of vision, where our brains, wonderful hearts and brains, fill in the gaps. We're not given everything on a platter of perfection. It's let's allow an audience in with the raggedy edges, the hand knitted sort of patches, the kind of the poverty. It's cinema povera.
Yes, yes, absolutely. From neorealism, it tells us that, but also sometimes we see great movies from the past. Also, with our colleagues, we discuss. Recently, we awarded Vittorio. I mean, if you look at Apocalypse Now, I dare to say the beauty of there are the imperfections that make it a masterpiece. That nowadays it would be difficult to shoot a movie like that, and
Yeah.
that rawness, it's exactly that. It's the gap between, I think, maybe between technology and what you want to achieve. That gap is still precisely about your craft, or you want to call it art or craft. And if you reduce the space for that, then there is nothing. And we become all replaceable. This is the message I think that we should pursue and pass to the new
And it's
filmmaker.
also what we are seeing with AI generated imagery, that this sort of sheen, robotic sheen and gloss, even when it's trying to emulate our accident, is not believable. And our bodies understand that, our brains understand that because we're much more evolved than, I think we give ourselves credit for. We communicate, cinema is a language of almost dolphin clicks that we don't even understand. I think that things happen when we look at art that is sort of our unconscious is so heavily at work that it goes under the skin. And that's why art is important overall.
Absolutely, and collectively also, what really appalls me when I hear this debate about AI, and not because I'm scared, but I'm appalled because is it possible that people don't get the fact that the process is as important as the outcome? How you do things is is as important. I mean, to the final result. And this is obvious, but it's basically lacking in the debate because everybody starts saying how, you know, we will get rid of this annoyment of these people around just annoying us. And yeah, but then it will be something different and it will be something less meaningful, I think, to humans, for sure. This is,
I think so. I think we smell it.
well, we need you to keep doing this amazing film, please, Seamus. And
Well,
because
if
it's
I'm
such a
spared,
joy to watch a movie like this is a joy. Is just it leaves you something inside, and the way you capture their fantastic performance. I think this is one of the roles of her life, I have to say. And even Robert Pattinson is amazing. But I want to thank you so much again for this, having found the time. And I, of course, I will restate in camera our invitation for next September to have you with us at Terre di Cinema. It will be fantastic. It's been the 15 years anniversary. And I hope we'll talk again about this. And if you have the time, it would be really great and fantastic to have you with
would
us.
love to come. I've just recently moved in London. I live in Tuscany.
I
Uh,
know. That's why I hoped we could cross, we could make it happen.
but in London, I've moved into rented a place in Palermo Road. So Sicily
Oh,
holds
it
a
is. So
place in
it's
my heart.
that's it's calling you. Is it near Liverpool Street? Some Holborn somewhere? No, Holborn, I think is Palermo
It,
Road.
yeah, Palermo Road. There is one there, but I live in the West London one near
Ah,
Kensal.
okay. Well, Seamus, thank you again. I hope it's an arrivederci then, and
Yeah.
good luck and all the best for for this upcoming project.
Grazie mille, Vincenzo.
Grazie a te, Seamus. Buonanotte, ciao.
Buonanotte, buonanotte. Ciao, ciao.